Welcome back, everyone. We invite you back into the new episode today, episode 3.
Yeah, I think it's 3. Okay. Episode 3 of Dinner for 2.
And today's title will be Pillow Talk. So I'm Stanley.
And of course, I'm Cathy.
And so today we're going to be talking about the language of love and intimacy.
Wow.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Wow. Go ahead and dive right in.
Yeah, so we're happy to be here again to talk about this topic. I'm going to take my glasses off. I thought I was going to need them, but I don't. It's all about intimacy. Now, don't get nervous. I know sometimes you hear intimacy and you think you instantly think sex. That is not what we're talking about, or that's not all that we're talking about. We're talking about real, genuine intimacy. And we want you to know that this is about what happens through conversation. And this really is around emotional safety and being safe enough and having enough conversation and care to be able to actually be sexually intimate. And a lot of times there's a disconnect because people don't realize that one does come really before the other if you want it to be authentic and really genuine and true.
And the overarching concept we started out with was effective communication.
Yes.
And so this is one of the subsets of being an effective communicator is when you can effectively communicate your feelings.
Yes.
Yeah. So Intimacy definitely encapsulates all of the things that we've talked about before.
Yeah. Remember, intimacy starts way before touching. It's not just about, putting your hands on each other, in a sexual way. It's really about some other kind of touching, touching your heart, touching your mind, touching other things before you actually jump into the bed or the washing machine, wherever y'all decide to do it. On top of the washing machine, don't get in the washing machine. Well, hey, if you're into that, do whatever you want to do. So, Stanley?
So we're going to look at some different levels of intimate conversation. And we've identified 5 different levels. And the first one is surface talk.
Yeah, surface talk is really, it's those things that are just kind of right at the basic level. It's like, how was your day? That kind of basic but necessary conversation. It's kind of I'd call it gateway conversation. So if we were going to talk about surface talk, it would be those things that just kind of open the door for maybe more deep or more or deeper, not more deeper, or opens the door to just kind of sharing. Just it creates a space to share, I would say. So that surface talk is that stuff that's not real deep. It's not real deep, but it is those things that let people know that you care. You want them to know that, hey, I'm just checking on you, just checking in. So surface talk is important. I want us to know that, intimacy is always going to be built with words first. So if we don't talk about things, then we can't do things. And that's my thought. My thought is just that, I think at some point, if there's something on my mind, it's going to keep me from wanting to be intimate in other ways. I got to get my mind in a space. And I know it's different for men sometimes, or at least our assumption is because I'll speak for me. Often, I won't speak for all women in the world, but often women, for me, I feel like I got to clear this of things. If there's anything that's hindering me or anything that's there, I got to clear it first. And sometimes starting with some surface conversation from you helps.
That makes sense. Because you've talked about before that multitasking is not effective because you're just going to do a bunch of things halfway.
Exactly.
And so that makes sense when you talk about surface talk. Because if you've got other things on your mind, are you really here? Are you really present? And that's a big issue in relationships is that generally you'll be there, but you won't be present, which is totally different.
Yeah. And I know we've talked about that before. Just, you're in the house, or I'm in the house, but are we present? Are we present for each other and with each other? And sometimes that's not the case. So the next one, surface talk, is a good one. And I know a lot of couples struggle with this because they don't realize that intimacy has levels. So as we break these 5 levels down, let's go into the next one, which is facts.
Let's say facts deals with sharing what's happening, what's happened in your day, what's going on in the world, or just the logistics of life.
Yeah, so when you start to talk about facts, it's just, after you've done some surface talk, you do that first and you're like, how was your day? How are things going? And then you may want to share a fact about your day, something that happened in the world. I know you love to talk about politics with me. You're not a big sharer outside of that space, or you love to talk about a fact, something that you're good with. And then we, of course, have the joke of the day thing that happens from time to time that don't tell that joke. I see it on your head. Don't you do it. Don't you tell that joke because that is not a funny joke. But things that happen. So we'll share some things sometimes that is just kind of either has occurred or that's a real fact, something that's going on in the world or something that you just want each other to know. Share that. And then after that, we move into opinions. That's level 3.
And to go back to the to the facts, I think that's important because we're all not interested or engaged in the same types of topics.
Good. Got it.
And so you don't have to be engaged in the same things that I'm engaged in order to get the information. So I enjoy being a conduit for information about things that I know is probably not on your radar in a day.
That's true. And you do have things that are not on my radar during the day. And I have things that aren't on your radar during the day. I'm a huge AI person. I play in AI all the time. I like AI. I'm not afraid of AI. And we were just talking about that yesterday because I learned something on AI and then played with it last night and sent it to you. And it was one of those things you were like, oh my goodness, that was great. So I love it. So that's a great opportunity for us to talk about things that you said. So it expands us.
Right.
It helps us to grow and learn and know. So, so being able to share some facts like that helps.
All right. And then the third one is opinions, moving into personal thoughts and ideas, which can sometimes lead to disagreements.
Now, remember, disagreements are not always negative. We got to reframe that word. Disagreement means that you have a thought and someone has a different thought. It doesn't have to be conflict. Disagreements do not have to be negative. Understand that. You can disagree and it can be positive.
Right.
Your disagreement may be enlightening to the other person. So please understand that your disagreement does not have to be a fight. Disagreeing, and we disagree on a lot of things. So because we are two very different people. Our thoughts are different. The way that we move through life is different. Our experiences are different. Our background is much different. And the way we see the world is a lot different. He is very concrete, sequential. I'm situationally that way. For me, other things some things I need very much regimented. Other things, what's the big deal? And he's not that way all the time, even though he's adjusting some. So I think we both learned to adjust to each other's way enough to be able to coexist without a lot of issue. But what I will say is that the big point for me in this is that we have to understand that disagreements are not a bad thing. Conflict is not even a bad thing. It's how you handle it. If you handle it poorly, then you get a poor result. So we got to be mindful that it's not necessarily negative to have these things. It's negative if we handle it poorly. But we've already talked to you about how to manage conflict. So go back to one of those episodes and check that out if you missed it.
Well, I think what was important in this too is it says moving into personal thoughts and ideas.
Yeah.
So we're talking about how you think about it. Because if I have to think like you, then one of us is not needed, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's
So
good.
it's
That's
personal thoughts and
You
ideas. And so it can lead to a disagreement. But once again, that's not a bad destination because in a disagreement, if you're using the things that we talked about in the first couple of episodes and you're working toward effectively communicating every thought and idea,
Yeah.
even a disagreement can be effectively communicated. And then everybody grows.
Right.
Because that's got to be the objective, right?
Right. And if you always presume positive intentions, it makes it easier for you to get through these things. Again, nothing should ever be said to hurt. It should always be said to resolve. It should always be said to resolve. So if it's said to hurt, then you're already starting in the wrong place. Back up. Take one of those pauses that we talked about in the previous episode. I'm saying episode. I don't know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
The previous episode. Go back and take a pause and then go forward so that you're able to do that in a way that's loving, caring, so that everyone feels respected and heard and feel like they have somehow ended with resolution.
And that was the outcomes that we talked about before, was that there has to be resolution. Everybody needs to feel heard and respected. And
valued.
Yeah.
Valued through the process. Absolutely. So again, remember that whenever you're going to create your personal thoughts or communicate your personal thoughts and ideas, they may not be the same as someone else's, but that's why they're personal. And you were made differently. Every person was made uniquely. So that means your thoughts will probably not always align perfectly with someone else's. So feel free to create and share your opinions. The other is feelings.
Okay, feelings, expressing emotions, fears, and desires. This is where emotional intimacy grows.
So feelings, and sometimes it's so hard to share feelings because the surface talk hasn't happened. There are no facts being shared, and my opinions have been shut down. So if 1, 2, and 3 can't happen, then when you start to get to sharing feelings, it's generally feelings of frustration, feelings of anger, because you can't do the other 2.
That makes sense when you think about it, though.
Yeah, or the other 3.
All those are foundational.
Yeah, so those are foundational, in my opinion. My thought is if you can't ask about the day and get an answer that's not curt or why you asking me or something nasty, and you can't have a very basic conversation about things that you've learned or that you know without feeling like you're being attacked, or you can't share your opinions without being attacked, then why would I share my feelings with you?
Right. There's no safe space.
There's no safe space. And you need a safe space if you want to be genuine in intimacy. You can't be intimate with someone that you don't feel safe with.
Right.
You can be sexual with someone you don't feel safe with, but you can't be intimate with someone that you don't feel safe with.
That's interesting.
Think about that.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you talk about feelings and you're talking about expressing your emotions, your fears, and your desires, you know how hard it is to express your fears with someone you don't trust or you don't feel safe with? That's very difficult. So you have to have created a foundation of safety, security, care, where people feel like they can give you that. I can give you my fears and it won't be weaponized. I can give you my fears and they won't be used against me. I can tell you my feelings, or I can tell you my hurts, or I can tell you the things that I'm experiencing, and you won't somehow use them against me later on, or somehow, again, weaponize that. Whenever that happens, that is horrible. That is traumatic. That puts you in a box. It puts you in a space where I'm not going to tell you anything.
All right. And then the last one is core truths. The deepest level, sharing your dreams, vulnerabilities, childhood wounds, or things that shaped you. This is where, in our opinion, true connection happens.
Yeah. So that's kind of like what I was just talking about. And I really like you take this one.
When we start talking about core truths and vulnerability, one of the issues that I've encountered talking to other men is that we don't have any trouble doing, but we do have trouble feeling. Because we rarely with men are you in a relationship where the conversation revolves around anything that you feel. And so without that training, without kind of having any foundational pillars, you go into relationships with your spouse, and now she's asking you, how do you feel? And I feel fine. I mean, I don't know what you're asking me. And most men, when they say they don't know what you're asking them, they really don't know what you're asking them. So for me, that's a learned behaviors, learning how to be vulnerable, learning how to share your feelings, and then learning how to be true. We listened to something this morning and it talked about the different faces. So you actually have on your real face rather than your stage ready face or your I'm headed to work face or whatever that may be.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's good. And what that says to us women is that we have to give them space to learn these things because they often have not grown up in a situation where they've been asked about their feelings often. They've been asked about things that they need to do and told kind of how to do things, but maybe not necessarily how to feel.
How to do, how to be, because men are quiet, boys don't cry. So they've been told how to do. Go and change the oil. I'm going to teach you how to do this. I'll teach you how to do that. But they've not been told how to feel.
Wow. Or how to express those feelings.
Right.
That's good. That's good stuff. So we may need to do something on that, just feelings alone and how to express that. And I will be more than happy to let's do that. We'll add that to this at some point. So we'll be coming back on something about that because that is deep. And that's true. Because if, again, I know that even for us, though, I think a lot of times the assumption is that women have this language that we somehow have grown up with. And that's not necessarily true either. When we talk about this, I know we talked about in that space, childhood wounds, those other things. A lot of times we didn't grow up in situations where people had the language to teach us how to describe the things that we were experiencing and feeling. And because that didn't happen, then of course we come into situations where we now don't know how to have the language to help you even explain the things that you need to explain.
Right.
So it causes frustration and we land there. We get stuck there, and then we don't really know how to come out. So yeah, we definitely need to do some work on that. Being able to articulate that is huge.
Right back to effective communication.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about tone and timing real quick, because I know that we often can say the right words, but we say them the wrong way. So when we're talking about intimacy, we want to make sure that we're not distracted when we're having these interactions. Pause and take a moment to be there. We talked about that, but then when you say things, say it in a tone that you would want to receive it, not in the tone that you may be feeling it, and to be mindful of your tone because it makes a difference. You gave an example in one of the other episodes about how saying something one way meant one thing and how you say it. So, love you.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't feel that. I didn't feel that at all.
Yeah. So say what you want to say in the tone that you would like to receive it.
And then timing is important because if you know your wife is not a late night person, don't start a deep conversation at 10:30 because she's not going to be able to give you her full self at that point, or he's not going to be able to give you his full self at that point. So just be mindful of when you are speaking, one, the tone, and then the time. And that's a lot for one episode. They got 5 different things, and then now we're talking about tone and timing. So this is probably a good spot to just kind of stick a pin here, and we'll pick up the next one and elaborate on some of the things that have actually come out in this one. So quick recap.
Go ahead.
So we've got the 5 things that we talked about, levels of communication. So we'll just cover those: surface talk, facts, opinions, feelings, and core truths.
Right.
And then lastly, we covered, don't forget to always monitor and be aware of your tone.
Right.
And then be cognizant of the timing about whatever it is that you're discussing.
Yeah, and we did hit quickly too, just some things around feelings and being able to articulate feelings well. So we definitely need to come back and talk about that. So that's what, stay tuned for that, because that's something that we're going to definitely need to come back and share with you. So it's coming up. stay tuned to it. We're going to finish up this conversation around communication first. And once we finish this series, we may intertwine it. So you just never know. Stay tuned. That's why you have to always catch us. If you missed any of the previous episodes, please go back and watch those because they're building on each other. We're building something here. And know, again, your conversations, when you're having them, they should always sound more like curiosity than criticism. So make sure that you are having conversations that will allow you to be intimate in multiple ways all the time. With that being said, thank you so much for joining us for Dinner for Two, and we'll see you in the next episode.